It says yes. Perfect. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining. My name is Masey Smith. I'm the Deputy Director at the International Institute, and I am joined with members of our USDA Nigeria SCRP project, which is the Scientific Cooperative Research Project that we are doing in partnership with NAFDAC in Nigeria. I want to start us off with a few introductions before we dive into some project specifics. And so I will turn it over to Dr. Tunde.
Yeah, good afternoon from Lagos. Good morning to everyone. My name is Tunde Sigbeku. I hold PhD in animal feed safety, and I am a fellow of Scientific Exchange Program with Mississippi State University, sponsored by United States Department of Agriculture, Foreign Agricultural Service. The CPR project, Scientific Cooperative Project, was a very worthwhile project that engulfed some of my colleagues here in NAFDAC. And I have with me from NAFDAC team, Dr. Timothy Bangboshe. Can you please on your camera and say hi, Dr. Bangboshe? Okay, while I wait for Dr. Timothy Bangboshe, I have also Mr. Oluwakemi Wasiu Mohammed. Oluwakemi Wasiu Mohammed is the lead resource person for risk assessment tool for the project. Mr. Mohammed, can you please on your camera and say hi? Unmute yourself, please.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mohammed. Yeah. So I also have in the team from NAFDAC, Mr. Kabiru Mohammed. Kabiru Mohammed is the lead analyst in the Food and Chemical Laboratory, where we conducted all the analysis on the samples taken from the field. Mr. Kabiru Mohammed, can you please unmute and say hi?
Hi, I'm Mohammed Kabir, the analyst from the lab.
Thank you very much. Also, our analyst from the lab that led the pesticide residue analysis lab is Dr. Oluwafemi Okediran. Dr. Okediran is a lead analyst in the pesticide residue lab. Mr. Okediran, can you?
Yes, good afternoon from here. Good morning over there. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Dr. Okediran. I don't know if Dr. Timothy is back. Dr. Timothy, are you with us? Dr. Timothy is the technical assistant to the Director General NAFDAC, and he works with us on the Office of Research. He is the lead statistician that conducted the analysis and interpreted the result for the project. So that is NAFDAC team. Those are the lead personnel that work with us on the project. Back to you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tunde. And thank you for those introductions from such a great team that we've had the honor of working with. Dr. Tunde, can you just talk a little bit and describe the purpose of the USDA Nigeria SCRP project and what all that entailed between MSU and NAFDAC? What was the collaboration about? What was the purpose of the project?
Yeah, thank you very much. The purpose of the project is just to foster collaboration. And the genesis of this project is just that during our fellowship program in Mississippi State University, we were trained on implementation of a sanitary and phytosanitary system in food safety. And I worked on regulatory part of it, of the component of food safety. And my colleague, Mr. Kayode Timothy, worked on food safety from the small scale perspective. So in view of that, we gave a proposal which happens to both on the concern that we have in international trade in Nigeria. Since 2013, which is almost 13 years today, Nigeria were not able to export beans to Europe because of the residue of pesticide in the produce. And this posed a serious concern and a loss of foreign exchange to the country. And this really informed the idea of working on this project. And the project is just focusing on the root cause of this pesticide residue. And the aim of the project is to determine the critical control point along the beans production value chain where this pesticide residue comes in. So this project was able to strengthen the collaboration between NAFDAC and Mississippi State University because the lead investigator on this project, Professor Keita, who is a mentor to Kayode Timothy, and my own mentor, Dr. Patrima, in poultry science, we all worked together to develop the concept note, and we were able to submit to USDA, and luckily enough, we got a sponsorship for it. And this really strengthened our collaboration. And we were able to use that opportunity to train my colleagues in the lab, which comprise of Dr. Okediran, Mr. Kabiru Mohammed, and all their support staff in their various laboratories. We were able to train officers in pesticide formulation laboratory, pesticide residue laboratory, and some of our colleagues in mycotoxin residue laboratory. So all the three laboratories in the agency that speaks to residue were trained on this project and were able to conduct field survey covering 12 states out of the 36 states of the country. The 12 states were carefully selected from the 6 geopolitical zone of the country. And that is a good representative sample to cover the entire country. And during that survey, the produce merchants, the warehouse workers, and the exporters were interviewed, and samples were taken from their point in the shed, in the warehouse, at the export shed. And these samples were sent into the laboratory, and using the accredited laboratory procedure on ISO 17025 of our food laboratory, the sample were analyzed, and we put the result into statistical evaluation. And with the leadership of Dr. Timothy Bangoshe, we were able to get statistical analysis of these various parameters we gathered, and we're able to locate the critical control point for this contamination along the value chain. It might interest you to note that after the analysis, we were able to discover that the principal concern that need a very urgent intervention has to do with the point of storage, transportation, and other handling procedure that we have with the chemical and the produce. And it reveals to, the project is able to reveal to us that our storage method has a concern. And the storage method itself is what encouraged the eagerness of the warehouse workers to tend towards using chemical to preserve the produce. And this we were able to identify, and we equally quickly use this project to identify relevant agencies in the country that have a role or two to play along the production value chain. And in view of that, the Federal Produce Inspection Service Agency was called upon, the Agricultural Quarantine, and the Nigeria Export Promotion Council. And all these three agencies were called to the table, and the result of this project was presented to them. And currently, we have developed a draft MOU with Agricultural Quarantine Service for us to see how to work together to eliminate the identified hazard. And as we speak, we're working with Federal Produce Inspection Service to develop a procedure for accreditation of pesticide applicators. This is a big gap we have in the country, and we've been able to try to copy the template of the operation in Mississippi State University, the procedure they use to accredit pesticide applicator for a validity of 3 years. So we are putting up a procedure with Federal Produce Inspection Service so that we can have a procedure in place to accredit pesticide applicators after training them and give them a validity license of 2 years. Yeah, sorry for the interface, it was due to network. So if we can control the application, procurement and application of pesticide, obviously the availability will be controlled, the vulnerability will be checked, and we will know who is applying what at any point in time. So we believe that the very first point of intervention that we need to bring up from this project is accreditation of pesticide applicator and market control of availability of pesticide so that we know who is buying what at which point. We are equally seeing how to work with the academics. We have SOP in the draft form with University of Ibadan, which is a tri-party MOU, not SOP, MOU. The tri-party MOU comprised of University of Ibadan Faculty of Agriculture and the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, NAFDAC and Mississippi State University. So when we get that completed, we will be able to use University of Ibadan as the training point for these pesticide applicators, because we need a academic input into that, just the way Mississippi State University do the training in Mississippi State before they go for their certification exam. So we're looking at using University of Ibadan for that, and we'll be contacting Mississippi State University for curriculum and other materials for the training. But we need to put the structure in place before we step into that. Now, from this project, also we're able to strengthen NAFDAC capacity in pesticide residue analysis. I mentioned that at start. And then this project has equally availed the agency the opportunity of giving a evidence-based approach to the reject that we have from EU. And the risk and assessment tool that is developed under the leadership of Mr. Kabiru, Mr. Mohammed Oluwakemi Wasiu, who is also a fellow of USDA, but he did his own training at New Mexico State University. He was the one that led the team that developed the risk assessment tool. We are deploying the risk assessment tool, which is under the template of the COLID risk profiling. And this we are deploying with our colleague in Agricultural Quarantine Service for us to be able to identify the point of contamination and the necessary regulatory measure that has to be deployed before a produce is released to market, either local market or to foreign market. This project conclusively has also helped us to really strengthen our regulatory procedure in terms of export, and all our colleagues on the export seat under the leadership of the Deputy Director in charge of export, Mrs. Sanwo-Olu Oluwaseyi, have been strengthened in terms of evaluation of produce for export and issuance of health certificate before going for sanitary and phytosanitary certificate for exports. Thank you very much, Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Dr. Tunde. In looking at the projected outcomes, I heard you discuss just the capacity building, especially during the trainings, and also creating a standardization as well as checkpoints for pesticide use in the market, and also during the trainings, what people were using and how they were using those and what information was getting shared to those who are applying pesticides in the field. Can you also share a little bit more about the other projected outcomes of the project? I heard you touch a little bit on the memorandum of understanding and a formal partnership, but also any other projected outcomes, as well as the bilateral benefits of these types of projects to both Nigeria and the United States.
Yeah, we want to start with the benefits. While I will ask my colleague, either Dr. Okediran or Dr. Bangoshe to respond to the other angle. Yes, for the benefit within the two countries, well, it might interest you to note that Nigeria National Regulatory Agency, which is NAFDAC, is fashioned after the US FDA. And that makes us to have a very similar procedure and regulatory framework. And we've been able, through the fellowship, learn the Mississippi State regulatory procedure, which really contributed to our capacity on returning to our country. So the first benefit is food safety. And when we have the food safety profile between the two countries, well mentored, you will discover that it will facilitate trade, and it will strengthen the trade between Nigeria and the United States. Beans is a very common export to the United States. And in addition to facilitating trade, the ones that are produced for local markets in Nigeria will be more of safer and high quality produce for us to consume locally. So it one, strengthen Nigeria and US trade collaboration. It also strengthen Nigeria and NAFDAC and Mississippi State University collaboration in terms of facilitating trade, ensuring safety both at local and international market, and also building capacity for our officers. We want to call on Dr. Okediran to speak to the aspect of the outcome in terms of the value gain at the laboratory level. Dr. Okediran, please unmute and speak. You are muted. You have to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. Dr. Olufemi Okediran, the head of pesticide residue unit. So the benefit to us and to the lab is that we're able to really work on a large number of samples, 180 samples, and that afford most of the officers under me to really understand better analysis. Because when we started with this, it was a bit strenuous, but I had to encourage them because we've not done a large sample at a very large sample within a short period like this. So that informed them that whenever, as an analyst, you have to be prepared. So that really helped them to know that at every point in time, we need to be at alert. And secondly, some of the aspects we took them through, they learned from it too, because on the instrumentation proper, so we're able to program it. And when we were trying to do the data analysis, most of them were with us and we're able to do that in their presence. So in terms of calibration, preparation of standard, because one important thing is that you know that this work is garbage in, garbage out. So if your preparation of standard, for example, is poor from the beginning, then your outcome will be very bad. So some of them at that process, they were able to learn from us the preparation of calibration standard, the working standard, preparation of stock, preparation of intermediate, then to working solutions, then how to, calibrate. So all these were achieved. So the project exposed our younger officers to really see how we can do that. And driving at home again, it was an interesting thing to find out that we had a lot of positive samples. Because sometimes when we do our routine analysis, we don't get so much positive samples. So it is only when we are, working on investigation samples. But this time around, the project afforded us opportunity to be able to see a lot of positive samples. And it will interest you to find out that there is what we call this cocktail pesticide we found. You find out that a single sample is having like 2 or 3 different types of pesticides. So we've been informing them, but they were able to see it practically in this project because some of them are, we see a lot of pyrethrates being used alongside with organophosphate pesticide. So some of those things we taught them theoretically, they were able to see it practically on ground. So that enhanced the understanding of the younger officers under us. So far, so good. At least the work have been proved that some of our farmers, they use pesticide in large quantity and they are not knowledgeable about the application. So that is what I will say so far. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you both for your response. Going back to the bilateral benefits, I wanted to see if Dr. Peoples had anything to add in terms of the benefits to not just Mississippi State, but also the United States.
Thank you for that question. My name is Dr. Erika Womack Peoples. I serve as the state chemist of Mississippi and the director of the Mississippi State Chemical Laboratory that is housed on the campus of Mississippi State University. Our laboratory is Mississippi's official analytical laboratory. We protect public health, support regulatory programs, and promotes consumer confidence through independent science-based testing of agricultural foods, petroleum products, and environmental products as well. And what I will say about, I guess, the bilateral benefits of these projects to both Nigeria and the U.S. is that Dr. Tunde was explaining it benefits both because of food safety, agricultural production, and international trade. And for the United States, I believe a stronger laboratory capacity in Nigeria increases confidence in agricultural products entering international trade, including products that may reach the United States consumers. And also, the United States can benefit from Nigeria scientists about their local crops, their pesticide use patterns, their production systems, environmental conditions, and also emerging food, emerging food emergencies. I'll just say that. All right, so I believe for the Nigeria, the project strengthens the ability to detect and evaluate pesticides residues, implement consistent laboratory procedures, and generate reliable data for surveillance and regulatory decisions. So this supports public health protection, consumer confidence, compliance with pesticide residue requirements, and the ability of the Nigeria agricultural products to meet domestic and international market expectations. So the bilateral for this, ultimately, Nigeria benefits from stronger regulatory capacity and improved protection of its consumers, while the United States benefits from a safer and more transparent global food supply and more reliable agricultural trading relationships. So it's a two-way exchange of the scientific knowledge, I believe.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peoples. In terms of the impact that the project had on the staff, stakeholders, or broader agricultural and food safety community, we're thinking about Nigeria, but also Dr. Peoples, what do you think that project has? And I think you touched on this a little bit when you talk about the trade potential and creating that standardization of testing in both Nigeria and the United States.
Yes, I do believe that controlled procedures and trained personnel, as the gentleman was saying, could generate more consistent, say, pesticide residue data. And if you had more consistent pesticide residue data, that transfer knowledge to additional analysts and support better informed regulatory decisions. So for the broader food safety community, that capacity can support stronger residue monitoring, identification of recurring problems or concerns, and greater confidence that decisions are based on reliable science, defensible data. And yeah, I believe that for that, that's the broader impact of it. It's just a sounder regulatory system. And also, I think we discussed the ISO accreditation, where everything is standardized internationally. We also use the ISO 17025 as a standard of saying, like, this data, it has been gone through a rigorous process and that you can trust it. And I think that is also important as well in terms of standardization.
Thank you, Dr. Peoples. That's really helpful insight. Dr. Tunde, also going back to, the impact that this has on NAFDAC staff, stakeholders, and the broader agricultural communities, can you share a little bit more going off of what Dr. Peoples said and also your experiences with the project?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Peoples, and I want to acknowledge the fact that what she said is true, and basically, international trade is at stake, and generating those data will help to be able to postulate and to know the trend of things. And like what my colleague, Dr. Kedira, just said, it's important for us to know that from the experience we've gathered now, we know the approach we're going to put when we're going to be talking to the farmers, to the aggregators, and to all players along the value chain. Now, stressing more, like Dr. Peoples say, on the international level, the capacity of the laboratory to generate data over time, really going to speak more to the trend of safety that we're having. And in view of that, this exchange that we are is actually giving us a wider scope and fortifying our experience, making us to know that, yes, whatever you do in your little corner on a farm is a global concern. And I want Mr. Mohammed Oluwakemi Wasiu, who is also a fellow of USDA, to shed more idea on that, because when it comes to international collaboration and the benefit accrue is a two-way thing, like Dr. People said, and invariably some are gaining more than the other, because Nigeria is learning more in building.
Thank you very much. In terms of thinking back to when, Dr. Tunde, you were previously a USDA Scientific Exchange Project Fellow at Mississippi State University back in 2023, and you referenced that a little bit earlier. How has that contributed to this partnership between? I think it's cutting out a little bit.
The modem just cut off a little bit. So in terms of international collaboration, the benefit to us in Nigeria, we are learning more from the US system, and we're using it to build our capacity, build our system, our regulatory framework, and strengthen our international trade. I want to yield the floor to Mr. Mohammed to make a comment on this. Mohammed, you have the floor. Please unmute yourself.
We cannot hear you yet. You may have to unmute.
Mohammed, we can't hear you. Maybe you have to unmute yourself and check your system that is not muted. Can you hear me? Can you check your system if it is not, if the mic is not muted on the system, the hardware? Can you speak up? I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Can you mute and unmute again? Let's see if it will work. You are muted now. Now unmute. You are muted yet. Okay, good. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me now, sir?
Yeah, you are loud and clear now. Go ahead, please.
That is good. Good afternoon once again. I am Mohammed Oluwakemi, and I want to say the project has actually helped us a lot here in Nigeria, most especially when we are doing the prioritization of our actions. During the course of the project, we were able to develop NAFDAC. We were able to develop a NAFDAC rapid assessment tool, which was developed using the COLID RSAT model risk SPS assessment tool modeled by COLID. COLID, as we all know, is based in France. And from this, talking little about the tool, we are able, from the original model of the tool, we have the 4 components, then the 15 control points, and a 3 level of compliances. So at the end of the day, we have different actions towards solving the problem of pesticide residue in the crop produce, the sesame seed and beans now. Then at the end of the day, we were able to prioritize our actions using the tool from the set of actions that from the technical working group were able to pull together. And at the end of the day, we got a result which is just similar to that from the questionnaire the survey did earlier for the same subject matter. So what this is telling us, and at the end of the day, from the tool, is that we need to do more of enlightenment, sensitization, and campaign against the use of pesticides. I mean, when not even needed, or at a point that is not scientific. So what I'm saying is that from the tool, we were able to deduce that in order to combat the problem of pesticide residue in our produce, our farmers in Nigeria here need to be sensitized on the type and the practices of using safe use, generally safe use of pesticides, and as well those involved in the value chain. So thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed. So before we go back to Smith, just as Mohammed have just said, I will want the head of a pesticide formulation lab, Mr. Kabiru, to really also share his own idea on this subject, because like what Mr.
He
Mohammed
didn't
just
tell
said
me
now.
anything before.
Can you mute yourself, Mohammed, please? So we need to know from his own perspective the impact we should be expecting and the drive to follow.
Good morning once again. I'm Mohammed Kabir, the head of Pesticide Formulation Lab. So in terms of agrochemicals that is coming to my hand, most of their formulation, let me say 99.99%, they are adequately okay. Anytime we carry out the analysis, because most of these agrochemicals are coming from abroad. So what we check, we discover that most of them, they are accurate. Their formulation is perfect. So what is left for us to do in Nigeria is just to continue monitoring our farmers so that whenever they are using it, we make sure that everything is in line according to the best practice. Thank you.
So invariably, what we're trying to conclude is that, like Mr. Mohammed said, our major focus is now to strengthen capacity, training and retraining, public enlightenment and advocacy, responsible use of chemicals and all that. Now, if we can achieve this, some of the agrochemical we use in Nigeria are either from the US, from Europe. So correct or responsible use will equally facilitate trade. We will be able to import from US to use the input on farm, then the produce from the farm, we will be able to export it. And this is where the global food safety synergy comes into play. Back to you, Ms. Masey.
Thank you, Dr. Tunde. And I appreciate the response from you and the rest of the team. Kind of thinking back to the dialogue surrounding this project, we were very fortunate to have you as one of our USDA Scientific Exchange Project Fellows back a few years ago in 2023. And since that time, can you share a little bit how being involved in that cohort and coming to Mississippi State and building those relationships has impacted not just this partnership, but just also the work that you do at NAFDAC and beyond?
Yeah, thank you so much. It might interest you to note that I returned from the fellowship exactly November 7 or 6. But it might interest you to know that today, being 5th of August, is exactly 3 years I got my visa for that training, and I left the
Oh,
country
wow.
August 7th. So we arrived at Starfield August 9th. So in 4 days' time, it will be 3 years that we arrived at Starfield. The 3 months training we got in Mississippi State University really, I will want to state the impact in 3 categories. First, from my personal perspective. 2, from my office work, and 3, from my agency perspective. Personally, the training altered my perception to my career, and it reflected in my report when I returned. And it might interest you to note that 3 months after submission of my report, I was redeployed from animal feed and premise division where I was heading, and I was posted to go and head the food and chemical laboratory, which is a national laboratory control facility. And when I got that posting, I remember Dr. Peoples, because I remember the day I visited her in her lab. I told her, you have to put me through what you do here, and I want to have a good grip of what is happening when it comes to laboratory quality check. And she did her due diligence. I was with her, and that took me 3 visits. On 3 different occasions, I was with her in her lab, and I was able to speak with her team, and that really prepared me for the new role I got when I returned from the fellowship. That is from personal perspective. And when I was troubling Dr. Peoples that day, I never knew I'm going to get this posting. And eventually, when I got it, I just say in my mind, thank you, Dr. Peoples, for giving me your time to really make me to have a grip of coordination and administration of a laboratory facility. So when it comes to the purpose of the training, which is facilitation of trade on the continent of Africa, I will want to tell you that this my stay in Mississippi has really facilitated that. Now we have a network on the continent, spanning from Southern Africa to Western Africa to North Africa and to Northeast Africa specifically. Presently, one of my officers was released to go on training in Uganda, and he was able to visit Uganda and Kenya border, and Uganda and Tanzania border, to see how they carry out sanitary evaluation for produce that is being traded across those borders, and is as the influence of my training in Mississippi State University. So that has strengthened our regulatory framework, and it has equally helped us to really build capacity in international trade. And the training also influenced my recommendation for Mohammed to go on this similar fellowship. And another colleague, Mr. Danjuma Aruna, also went on this similar fellowship with Michigan State University. And pulling the 3 of us together in the agency have really strengthened our perspective and review on some of our regulations. For instance, upon arrival, it became mandatory for us to play a great emphasis on medical check for any personnel that want to trade in a agrochemical. We usually have a regulatory instrument for agrochemical marketer, which we call chemical listing. But now we've strengthened that regulatory instrument by introducing mandatory medical check, and by really going in depth into the stock keeping, good distributional practice, and the likes. So that leveraged me into the impact on the agency. Sincerely, I want you to note that The fellowship play a very great role in my regulatory work, especially in the laboratory. We were able to now review many things. And like what Dr. Okediran said, most of our reports were now being looked in closely, interpretation being focused on, and we're able to discover that from the laboratory, we can project what is happening on the farm. For instance, the cut tail residue that is being discovered in the produce is pointing out to us for us to review the operation along the line. And what we discovered was that it is possible for the merchandise that bought the beans at the farm gate to put pesticide, a particular type of pesticide. And by the time the distributor is taking it from him and taking it to the warehouse, he also apply another pesticide, not knowing that the first stage have a pesticide therein, because they were not doing laboratory quality check. And by the time the exporter also want to export, it goes with another. So when you take such a sample, you will discover different residue in them. And that is where our serious need for strong advocacy and enlightenment campaign comes into play. You don't apply pesticide on a produce if you don't know the integrity of that produce. That is one. And from the training, we are generating an idea that labeling is becoming a very strong tool, that you must be able to declare on a produce whatever you have done to that produce. Have you applied pesticide? Have you, when was it harvested? What storage condition did you give before you sell to the next person along the value chain? My stay in Stafford was very impactful, and has really changed a lot of things, and really fortified me in my day-to-day activity. I may want to recall when the mentors came to visit in May 2024. They were with me in the office, and they were able to observe my daily operation. And Professor Keita can testify to that the procedure were really, really overhauled, and the approach was really reviewed, and that really strengthened us. There is this 4C that we came back with from Mississippi: effective communication, adequate collaboration under an efficient coordination, and you should be able to communicate your findings to sister agency. That really led us into building bridges, breaking silos, and reaching out to sister agencies. And it has been wonderful in the kind of response we are having. And developing regulatory policy is equally now very seamless, and we're having quite some of them well developed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yes, we had a great time with you as a fellow at MSU, and would love to have you back in the future, Dr. Tunde. Thinking about...
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, we are too. So thinking about scaling and sustaining this project, what resources, partnerships, or policy support are needed to sustain this project's impact over the long term?
Yeah, we were quite aware that the grant is up, and we are closing the grant now, and obviously fund has stopped, and the question now is, how do we sustain? The very first line of sustaining this project is for starting with the submission of the comprehensive report. And in the comprehensive report, we have the Article 7 speaking to resolution and way forward. And the way forward is for us to identify the gaps, which we have done, communicate the gaps, which we have done, and then collaborate on intervention to mitigate the gap, which is what we are doing now. And for us to do this, obviously, we are conscious of the fact that fund will be a requirement. And the initial point of approach now is that identify intervention will be incorporated into the work plan of the agency so that the budgetary allocation for the agency in 2027, some can be seeded into these projects so that we can be able to strengthen the advocacy, for instance. We'll be able to reach out to farmers, to exporters, and that is why our discussion with Export Promotion Council is very important, because all exporters are their own stakeholders. So whenever they're having the stakeholders engagement, we will be able to attend and pass the necessary message we need to pass and provide the intervention we need to do. So these are the structure we want to use to foster, to push forward, excuse me, to push forward the intervention we're able to identify from this project. But I know very well that blending it with our work plan may be slow in dispensing because budgetary allocation, budgetary release, government bureaucracy, nepotism, and all that will come to play. And but is still a hope for us to push on. We won't be stagnant and we won't be stopping at all. Then to some other interventions that need assistance, of course, we'll wash out. For instance, when it comes to this accreditation of pesticide applicator, we will definitely be reaching out to Mississippi State University for assistance in terms of sharing of experience, in terms of sharing curriculum, for instance, because the university we're bringing on board, we need to understand the concept of what we want them to do. And that they will want to know from people that have been doing it, how is it being done? And in line with that, well, if we are fortunate to come across grants in future, we won't mind. We'll be able to bid for it. Hopefully we get, so that we can use it to hasten and strengthen the interventions that we have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I would like to also ask that same question to Dr. Peoples, and just sharing it again. Dr. Peoples, what resources, partnerships, or policy support are needed to sustain the project's impact over the long term?
I believe the long-term sustainability requires, I guess, dependable laboratory resources, continuing technical partnerships. At our laboratory, we make sure for our analysts that are for competencies, we do proficiency tests as well, and as well as institutional policies that support the consistent quality practices. So for our laboratory, like I was saying before, we have the ISO IEC 17025 accreditation that provides the quality framework. Our accreditation is maintained through daily practice, not simply just by processing a certification or written SOP. So the management must support this consistent sample receiving, chain of custody, quality control, data review, record retention, equipment maintenance. Is a lot that goes into the laboratory side of things, but also on the regulatory side of things, there are maybe like a sustainable residue monitoring program, like Dr. Tunde was saying. If you know, where are we getting these pesticides? Who's allowed to get these? Have use the pesticides on their agricultural commodities. And so a sustainable residue monitoring program will also require like an improved sampling plan. At the Mississippi State Chemical Laboratory, we do not sample. That is done through NAFDAC, who brings the commodities to our laboratory, and we do the testing and provide that the response to those samples. The number and type of samples must be aligned with the laboratory's validated scope, capacities of the resources, and expected turnaround time is very important. Just because like we've received that sample and it's say 60 days and you have not reported those results, that you may be in a new season. So those types of things on the laboratory and regulatory side of things. Policy support. So I know that when the SRP were in our laboratory, one of the comments was that, maybe adjacent country may not receive their agricultural commodities, even though they have the ISO IEC 17025 accreditation stamp. So I feel like also those collaboration, those regional laboratory networks, supporting the mentorship, the policy support, rather than just depending on, one laboratory to do those things. So consistent scientific and regulatory practice should remain in place, even when like the leadership or, political priorities change. Just make sure that your laboratory is doing what they say they do, which is the ISO standard. So that's what I would say about that question.
Thank you, Dr. Peoples. And just one more question for you as well. How is this project positioned MSU and NAFDAC for future collaboration, capacity building, or even additional USDA supported initiatives?
That's a good question. I believe the project has strengthened MSU's ability to connect academic expertise with the practical needs of an international regulatory agency. For the Mississippi State Chemical Laboratory, it demonstrated that our experience in pesticide formulation, residue analyses, regulatory analysis, as well as quality assurance in ISO 17025 laboratory operation can support meaningful international capacity building. It also demonstrated an effective pathway for future collaboration, beginning with a scientific exchange. You could document the partner's needs and then build a larger institutional project around those findings. Just continuing the support and to advance training, method expansion, proficiency test activities, reciprocal staff exchange. I know that you guys came here, we were talking about coming there, residue monitoring programs, and other supported food safety initiatives.
Thank you, Dr. Peoples. And what advice would you share with other organizations implementing similar projects?
So the project itself, it is a continued technical exchange focused on regulatory laboratory science. And so I believe that if you were to do these activities through just periodic reviews and continue SOP development and advance pesticide residue training, assistance with method verification and validation, and consulting with ISO, I believe implementing these practices will standardize how that each laboratory has put forward that scientific data to know that your product is a safe product, that it is defensible, that is you can look at commodity prioritization, risk-based sampling, data trends, and the connection between the laboratory findings and the regulatory response. So I feel like this type of program is just very beneficial for the both, for the partnership with Nigeria and Mississippi State Chemical Laboratory in particular, with learning from them, like, the problems that they face, and that, so if we already have a system already in place, right, why reinvent the wheel? And so maybe using some of those, what we have in place now to help them, but it seems like they're already on a way to a sound regulatory, they're doing well, and I think that for the most part, that this was beneficial for the both labs. The
Thank you, Dr.
mentorship, the partnerships, and just reciprocal scientist exchange was really great.
Thank you, Dr. Peoples. And you've touched on this a little bit, and I'll also ask Dr. Tunde the same question, but he also shared, kind of the outside of the lab experience of your mentorship with him when he came, and how kind of those collaborations as a scientific exchange fellow have really impacted his career trajectory. And not only that, but how he sees international collaboration. So I just wanted to ask, what does the success of this particular project mean to you personally and professionally, taken individually, but also in the context that we knew Dr. Tunde at Mississippi State University well before we had this project?
Yeah, so initially with the program, the SRP program is how we got connected, and we had the 13 fellows to come over to the Mississippi State University's campus to do a lot of the training. So there was what was really important to us was the academic and educational component. And for my laboratory, it was more about the conceptual knowledge more than also the hands-on experience that they got in the laboratory with working with our analysts one-on-one. So one-on-one with doing, pesticide evaluations using the GC mass spec and going into those SOPs. But personally, it was just really, really rewarding to be able to mentor and to share what we have in our laboratory and to discuss things. It was really, really fulfilling to put together a work plan and see it all the way through to, a proposal, all the way through to funding and things like that to support the laboratory efforts in Nigeria. So it was pretty amazing.
Thank you, Dr. Peoples. And going back to Dr. Tunde, just the same question. What does the success of this project mean to you personally and professionally, given your history as a fellow in this full circle moment where we see you now as an international collaborator working with the chemistry lab?
Yeah, thank you very much. Now I want to thank Dr. Peoples again. Well, I want to start by saying that this program has really impacted, just the way I said earlier. And what I have really pinned out, like I said, the system that is being run in the US in terms of academic, regulatory, the laboratory service is so unique. And when we compare, we can identify our gap. To start, number one example is the extension service. In the US, in Mississippi, the extension service is part of the university system. But here in Nigeria, extension service is standing alone. And that results to a very serious gap when it comes to stakeholders engagement, training and retraining is a very serious challenge. So that's one. Then two, when you look at the system, what I've learned from the system in Mississippi State University is that The academic, the central laboratory is interwoven, and the extension service is coupled with it. So it's a free flow chain that really make the procedure robust. But in Nigeria, we're having it in silos. And that is a very serious lesson I came home with, which I'm doing my best to see how to break those silos. Presently, I head the Office of Research for the agency, and I equally head the online training school for the agency. But the mandate of the agency is purely regulatory. So we cannot dive too deep into research, too deep into training. And that is where we need collaboration with academics. And that's why we are building MOU with University of Ibadan, for instance, which is the triparty MOU with Mississippi State University. And I'm also coordinating another MOU with Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. You know, in Nigeria, we exist in silos, and it's not helping the system in any way. And from the exposure I had in Mississippi, I now understand why the system in the US is running. Because no one is an island. And you can see that Food Safety Inspection Service, we do inspection, upload the inspection report. FDA, we see the report, and they do what they need to do. It's a big lesson for me. And it's a very big take home that I am trying to push my effort to see how we can drive it through, knowing very well that there will always be resistance to change. When you bring in any change, there will be resistance. And presently, I'm encountering some resistance, even with the little one we're doing now. But I'm not discouraged with that, because it is the right way to go. If we want to really achieve a significant impact of food safety, then we have to do the right thing. And the right thing is, no one works in an island. You work in synergy, in coordinated collaboration, and we communicate effectively. That I see it live and direct in Mississippi State University. I saw Mississippi State University staff that are 80% extension, 20% research, 80% extension, 10% teaching, in this kind of a fashion. I remember the lady I met at the Animal Science Department. She's an extension service agent to goat farmers, specialized goat farmers. And she has a schedule. She showed me a schedule, and she shared some literature with me that I'm having in my library and using here now. And these are the real robust build-up that we're talking about. Now, identifying this kind of a synergy, it is a challenge for me to see that it happens in Nigeria. And to what Dr. Pepu also said in terms of the regulatory leveraging with university, the laboratory service, yes, some of our procedures are ISO 17025, no doubt, but you know, we need a very efficient and adequate procedure in place to maintain ISO 17025, because it has to be maintained. If you don't keep the standard or improve on it, the accreditation will be lost. And that was the first challenge I had when I returned, when I was heading the laboratory. We have to make sure that we maintain, and to maintain is expensive. And that's why I was not able to onboard more procedures onto ISO 17025 because of the cost. And it took us almost 2 years to procure a reference standard. Not because there were no reference standard in the market, but because the fund for it was not released, because it has to run through budgetary allocation and all the likes. So at my hand is a great impact, and we're learning a lot, and we're seeing how to put a lot into place. Yes, the contact is established. we need to build on it, strengthen it, and look for future opportunities as things unfold. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tunde. And you basically answered the next question, which is kind of looking at how MSU and NAFDAC can work together to continue partnership across our institutions in the future. So if you could touch a little on that, and I'm also interested in kind of a final message of what message do you have for up and coming leaders in international research and development? What does this look like in the coming years? And like you said, how can MSU and NAFDAC take, and other universities and institutions look at the future and say, this is how things are now, and this is how things could be, and this is how we can collaborate for the future. What does that co-creation and process look like in the coming years?
Thank you very much, Masey. And well, for me, to initiate this and strengthen future collaboration boils down to a simple fact of commitment. Commitment, purely scientific driven commitment. And that's why I'm pushing for the tripartite MOU between MSU, NAFDAC, and University of Ibadan. Is the right direction to go, because if we establish that MOU, will we be able to now engage in further development, continuous improvement in our relationship, and seeking for better opportunities in future on the subject of food safety and trade. And when we have the MOU in place and we're able to put it to use, put it to test, student exchange program, officer exchange program, I think that can go a long way. Not necessarily waiting for USDA to be the only source of facilitation for this kind of collaboration. So if, the MOU is in place, we can have a PhD student from University of Ibadan coming to Mississippi State University. We can have a research-oriented regulatory officer from NAFDAC visiting University of Ibadan on a STEM program, going to Mississippi State University for postgraduate study. We can even with the barrier of the visa issue we have now, technology can help us to overcome that. We can engage in online training, virtual engagement, and all the likes till things improve in terms of visas and travels. And these are things I think the MOU we need to accommodate so that we can strengthen and give room for improvement in our engagement. And of a truth, collaboration with Mississippi State University is going to be a wonderful milestone for us. And there is a thing we guide with high jealousy that we don't want any breakdown along the line, because it opens opportunity for us in terms of global standard. And it equally equips us in global exposure, so that will we be able to play a very significant and remarkable role when it comes to global engagement. And this is going to be a line we want to follow. And in the coming weeks, I'll be visiting the University of Ibadan to meet the new dean of veterinary the new dean of Faculty of Veterinary Medicine and the new dean of the Faculty of Agriculture. Because the dean of Faculty of Agriculture we met when the mentor came, has gotten an appointment as a vice chancellor in a state university and is out of University of Ibadan now. So that needs to be revisited. And the draft or the initial MOU with Mississippi State University needs to be brought up so that we will be able to look at how it was fashioned instead of going into developing a clean, fresh one. We can build on what we have in the past. So having said that, future engagement, I look forward to a robust future engagement in terms of cooperation, in terms of further collaboration on further studies and seeking further opportunities in future engagement on research that can really be of mutual benefit to both NAFDAC and Mississippi State University. It is of a truth that we need to strengthen our intervention by working with the academics, and that is why we must bring University of Ibadan on board on this project, on this collaboration. And this project has been a very big eye opener, and it has given us a very wide exposure when it comes to international collaboration. And this is what we will need to build on. It might interest you to note that in the coming week, we are going to be having top management committee meeting of the agency. Myself and Dr. Bangboshe will be attending the meeting, and we have this research outcome on the agenda of that meeting, and we're going to be presenting the intervention, and we'll see the one we can handle at the short run, at the medium run, and at the long run. So after that meeting, we're going to engage in communication to see if there are areas we can explore where we can get further engagement and how we can get help from other organizations as time unfold. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tunde. I appreciate your response. Going back to Dr. Peoples, this is just one last question, just the same question. What message do you have for up-and-coming leaders in international research and development with projects like this or future projects? What does that look like? And what message do you have for them?
I believe what I would say about that is for the broader food safety community, this project has helped break down institutional silos, like Dr. Tunde was saying, by connecting laboratory scientists, the regulators, researchers, and our agriculture stakeholders, such as our farmers. So that collaboration can strengthen the residue monitoring program, identifying recurring and emerging concerns, guide risk-based sampling, and increase confidence that food safety decisions are based on sound science. And I feel like that is the most important thing to the community, to knowing that your food is safe based on what the laboratory and these regulatory people have done. So ultimately, the project demonstrates that protecting the public health requires more than just laboratory capacity alone. It requires the sustained communication, the coordinated actions, and shared responsibilities across the entire food safety systems. And so success to me for this project means that NAFDAC personnel and institution can retain that capability after the funded project has ended, and that MSU and NAFDAC can establish, maybe some sort of the MOU, continue a technical exchange focused on regulatory, laboratory science, and activities such as periodic, maybe virtual reviews like we've been doing, continue SOP development, advanced pesticide residue training, assistance with laboratory verification and validation, and that's just continue supporting that quality system practices that they've been doing. So while all that technical experience is important, I feel like what's a little bit more important is the international collaboration, which begins with the listening and respecting the local knowledge and understanding that every institution operates within its own regulatory and cultural and resource environment. And so I believe that message for up and coming leaders in international research and development is important in that way.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peoples. These are great responses, and I know we have a lot of continued work ahead of us, even outside of the project, as we look into establishing a memorandum of understanding. And like you said, continue to have that dialogue and that exchange with our Nigerian partners at NAFDAC and beyond that we've made throughout the project. So to Dr. Tunde and team, thank you so much for the collaboration. We've greatly appreciated it, and we look forward to collaborating in the future.
Thank you very much. I think we can put on our lenses so that we have a screenshot.
Sure.
So it's been wonderful. Thank you so much, Masey. I really, like I said, we are system work. This is the benefit of a functioning system, because Julie was on your seat when we came to Starfield. And because the system is efficient as it's working, you came into that role and it was seamless. And your visit to us is still memorable. And I remember the way you tasted the pepper soup.
Yes, I can't wait to come back. Hopefully Dr. Peoples and Dr. Heitza and I can come one day and visit. We are
Yes.
very committed to the partnership. And like you said, this is a great, and like Dr. People said, this is also a comparative look into extension as well. Like we have extension services, you have extension services in your counties. I know we've talked about that, looking into the potential of seed grants as well as partnership with University of Ibadan and NAFDAC and MSU is a great way to look at not just the academic pathways, but also the continuation and the scaling of the research that's been done here, as well as just setting the bar for, what, when we talked about this with the USDA consular, what trade looks like between not just our nations, but nations around Nigeria. Like you said, everybody eats, when we were there, everybody eats beans. And when you do this testing and it means something to people that are local as well as international interested parties, you can build the capacity to just promote that continuous international dialogue. Like Dr. Peoples was talking about, just continue that communication and seeing what things could be and not just how they are. So I appreciate everybody's work on the project and look forward to doing it again.
Thank you. Dr. Bangboje is back. Dr. Bangboje, will you say hi? Just
Hello,
say hi to the
everyone.
team. Yeah.
I'm trying to follow up on the discussion, but I was in another parallel meeting, so I wasn't able to actually contribute. But I know Dr. Sigbeku always do justice to every question asked. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So thank you, Dr. Peoples. You expect my mail soon. Thank you, Masey. And my regards to everybody at Starfield. Thank you.